All right, so welcome everybody out there in Facebook land. We are the Flint Public Health Youth Academy, back for another episode of A Youth Perspective. As you all know, the Flint Public Health Youth Academy is an exciting group of young people who are everything public health. We believe everything is public health and public health is everything. And so we talk about the many different aspects of systems, of life, of disparities, of social justice, almost everything that is literally related to public health and how that manifests in lives of communities, especially urban communities and communities of color and other marginalized populations. And so we're here today to really lift up a very important topic. We're so excited today to discuss holistic health. We have an awesome team. We have an awesome panel today with our FIRE interns and our guests. So before we get started, we're going to ask all of you who are watching now in social media land to go ahead, like and share. Let folk know that we are on, like and share. Go to our Facebook page. For those of you who are guests, go ahead and take a moment now and go to the Flint Public Health Youth Academy on Facebook, like and share. Let your friends know that you're on so they can get this word that y'all about to deliver about holistic health. We are excited about health, but more important, we're excited about you. And so as we prepare to go into today's show, we're going to just ask that you, if you have comments out there, that you just comment in our Facebook comment section, and we read them. Sometimes we respond to them and get back with folk. So we are a really engaged group. And in the event that you have missed any of our talk shows, you can just go to YouTube and type in FIRE, which is our acronym 810. That's FPHYA 810. And it'll take you right to our page, and all of our talk shows are archived on our YouTube channel. So again, we are the Flint Public Health Youth Academy, and we're so excited to have you here and to have you as part of our Youth Perspectives talk show. So with that, I'm going to turn it over. First of all, I think I said who I was, but I'm Dr. Kent Key, and I'm the founder of FIRE, and I'm going to turn it now over to Cruz, who will then start us off as we begin to introduce the panel. Have a wonderful time, everyone, and I'll be back at the end of the show.
All right. So today's talk show, we're going to mainly be focusing on holistic health. So I'm going to introduce our panel, and really they're just going to describe some of the positions that they are a part of and the type of things that they do. So first, we want to start off with Kanisha Bell.
All right, thank you, Cruz. My name is Kanisha Bell. I am a yoga instructor and mindfulness educator, meditation facilitator. Right now, I'm currently the lead for community outreach and engagement with the Healthy Mindful Flint initiative with the Crim Fitness Foundation. And I graduated from U of M Flint with a degree in health education. So, in the public health field. And I will say, I didn't remember anything holistic health when I was in school. And now it's like a thing. But as far as public health and holistic health, back then when I graduated, it wasn't, at least I don't remember any classes or anything. So this is really interesting. I'm excited about this talk.
Happy to have you. Next, we're going to have Toy Edwards.
Hey, my name is Toy. I am an engineer in background education and also a master's in public health. I am a yoga teacher and a birth doula with Colorful Hearts Doula. I am passionate about everything birthing. And so holistic health and holistic care comes into that scope with everything that I do.
And then next we have Dr. Thompson.
Hello, everybody. My name is Dr. Patrick Thompson. I am a naturopathic physician, and I'm also the Chief Healing Officer of Whole Kingdom Wellness, which is a holistic health solutions concierge medical practice. It's located in New Orleans, Louisiana. And I'm also the health, wellness, and food justice consultant for Black Millennials for Flint.
And lastly, if you're here, we have Celia Perez Booth. Okay, so after quickly going through some introductions, I want to move us on to our first question to sort of just kind of feel things out and kind of warm us up to some of the questions that we're going to be talking about today. And this is kind of for anyone here on the panel. Of course, we always have our other by youth interns and mentors as well. Starting us off, what comes to mind when you hear holistic health?
Do we just kind of popcorn or?
Yeah, go in straight for it.
I was gonna say the same thing. I was like, are we going in order? We raising our
Like,
hand.
what we doing?
Ladies first, go ahead.
I say when I think of holistic health, I think of just your overall health. And when I think of it in a way that's outside of like pharmaceuticals, outside of man-made stuff. So I'm thinking of like looking at mental and physical as one, not separately, and then doing so in a natural way. Like anything, doing it in a way that's putting things in your body that's made by God, essentially, not man-made things. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback off of Kanisha's. I think holistic health, I think of wholeness, right? And so you think of I'm gonna tell you I'm a nerd right now, so because my engineering background. So I think of systems, interconnected systems. So you think of the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual being in one thing, and they're all interconnected and are needed in order to function fully and completely.
Great. Yeah, so when I think about holistic health, I certainly agree with what has already been said, but I definitely resonate with the idea of wholeness, and we are not beings that are just physical. And so we're talking about holistic health. We're talking about addressing every part of our beings that we can, and that might encompass physical, mental, emotional, social, fiscal, all sorts of areas that affect or are part of a person and can affect the person's wellness as opposed to health. Maybe we can address that at some point, but there's a difference there in my view. But addressing those things and not just addressing one aspect, and also making use of every tool that's available by the different schools of medicine in an integrative way. I'll just leave it there for now.
Yeah, I mean, I really like that definition because does someone else want to go?
Hello.
Yeah.
This is Celia. I would just like to agree that I think holistic healing is everything that everyone has mentioned, and for us as Indigenous people, I think our rituals and ceremonies are part of that holistic healing. And in fact, when one time when I was in Mexico and I had to have an antibiotic for ear infection, I was also sent to a curandero, a healer, a folk healer. So in combination with medical medicine and like I said, ritual and ceremony is important for Indigenous holistic healing.
And could you also introduce yourself for our audience?
Yes. Sorry. I am Celia Perez Booth. I'm a retired counselor from Mott Community College, and I'm a ceremonial grandmother for our Kalpuli Tekpat, which is an Indigenous longhouse.
Thank you. So a lot of regard.
I just wanted to say, Dr. Bailey said she was 70 years old, and I'm 81. So I'm still at it. So good for us.
Celia,
right?
I'm over 70. 70 is where I let you all in at.
Oh.
Okay. Well, good for you. Yeah. We stay strong using holistic healing.
Yeah, and I
Taylor?
think just to add on to what Celia was saying, I think holistic healing is a combination of practices sometimes. Like it's not necessarily just using a certain kind of medicine or a certain kind of practice or a certain kind of ritual or routine. Oftentimes we need several practices and routines concurrently in order to truly address an issue. So I think that's what comes to mind with holistic healing is recognizing how multifaceted so many of the things that attack our bodies are. How anxiety is not something that is only mental, but that you have a physical reaction to that affects your social capabilities, you know? So as I was saying, like having different approaches is what I think of when I think of holistic healing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree in a lot of what everyone's been saying so far. It really is those different aspects of health that we would consider outside of medicine, and it can be congruent and connected together in ways that help your spirit, your mental, your emotions, and all those different aspects. Moving on, how do you practice or contribute to holistic health?
I can jump in here with that. So as I said earlier, I am a naturopathic physician, and many of you may not know what that is, but basically I'm trained as a primary care physician that focuses primarily on natural modalities. I in some places I can prescribe medication, but usually my first round is to go a natural route, less invasive, and I look at root cause of illness. So I do botanical medicines. I do adjustments like chiropractors. I even do some traditional Chinese medicine, acupuncture, cupping, and even some things, some minor surgeries. So I kind of see myself as as an ancillary to help, but in a more preventative way. I'm looking at more for preventative medicine. And I'm also looking at things that are most integrative, right? So, for me, if you come to me and you have a fever, or let's say you have what I call diabetic ketoacidosis, I'm gonna give you behind some insulin first, and then we're gonna talk about using some herbs and whatnot to get your blood sugar under control. So I believe that every school of medicine has certain tools that they can use to help someone's health, and I think we all need to work together to make that happen.
I'll jump in. I'm Jasmine. I actually introduced myself, never mind. But I one practice that I do is yoga to kind of practice holistic health. And it's helpful both for like physical health and for mental health. So that's mine.
Guess I'll just jump right in. Hello, I'm sorry for the delayed introduction, but my name is Tomas Teo. I'm also a fire intern helping to facilitate this conversation, and I'm happy to be here with you all today. Had some technical difficulties, but use my holistic health to help me get through those issues. But anyway, during my personal, I tend to meditate. I tend to do prayer. I'm Christian, but my tia Celia, who I'm glad to invite upon this panel today. Thank you for coming. I have some, because of my Mexican heritage, I have some indigenous roots as well. So I tend to do practices similar to that. So just meditating, breathing exercises, and just being spiritual. So, I feel like one of the misconceptions kind of with any form of prayer is people always think that you got to light a bunch of candles, you have to have a mat out and have a certain direct way. But to be honest with you, that's not how the creator, the higher one, the all-powerful, whomever you call them, Allah, whomever, that you can just pray and connect with them however you like to. It's all about you and your connection. So my advice is for people to not get caught up with those perceptions and views of a perfect Christian or a perfect Muslim or a perfect just a spiritual practicer, but do it what you want to do, because that's what it matters. So that's just what I wanted to say.
Yeah, I think ways that I practice holistic health, breathing exercises, yoga as well. I think journaling is helpful for me, as well as honestly just talking to people. Therapy has been a part of my holistic healing process, as well as Tomas was saying, like prayer and spirituality. I'm also a Christian, and so practicing in those ways. But like I said, I feel like there are so many different approaches and ways. And so I'm also in a time in my life, I feel like, where I'm trying different methods of healing. Like And instead of like taking Dayquil, like what else can I do to try to like deal with colds and flus and things like that? So I'm definitely trying out different things, but those are some of the practices that I've begun using.
And this is, again, Celia speaking. As an Indigenous person, coming from an Indigenous culture, we use the sweat lodge a lot for all kinds of healing. A sweat lodge is, in the Nahuatl language, is called a temascal, and it takes care of a lot of ways of healing. The deep breathing, the meditation. It can be a spiritual healing. It could be a physical healing, psychological healing that can take place in the sweat lodge. It's been used for thousands of years, and anything that lasts that long must be helpful. And it's a place for us to get in touch with an ancient way of healing for us, and it's a very comforting way of approaching this holistic healing. What else can I say? Oh, I could say a whole lot of things about the sweat lodge experience. It can help you with it's a hygiene. It's a method of hygiene. In a lot of places where we go, there isn't enough water to take baths or showers every day, and so sweat lodge can help you detoxify your body. The heat and humidity eliminates pain. It relaxes tired muscles. It improves circulation. It kills pathogens and bacteria and viruses. It improves skin tone. I mean, so many things that we feel the sweat lodge can offer to holistic healing.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of piggyback off of the things that she mentioned and also some of the other panelists, especially Dr. Thompson. One thing that he said that really like resonated with me is he said the root cause. And so with holistic care or holistic health, it's kind of different than your normal, I'm going to the doctor, or because they treat symptoms, where when you look at holistic health, you're treating how did you get here? And so when we look at how do we apply that in our daily lives, with a lot of you have mentioned already with yoga, because yoga, it's a physical practice for a percent of it. But if you're a yoga teacher, you know that's only a part of yoga is the physical asanas or the postures that we do on the mat. But there's a whole nother 80% of yoga that has to do with your mind, your mental, meditating, breathing, all of those things, how we actually live our lives. So all of that is a part of holistic care. And then yoga helps to connect the physical, the mental, the spiritual, the emotional together. One thing with holistic care is knowing that even if I have an isolated practice of being a yoga teacher or a birth doula, I understand that that specific thing that I've been called to help someone do is not just isolated to just me. You know, they still, as a birthing person, they still have a doctor, they have family members, and all these things take a part of that health, that takes a part of that labor, that delivery. So understanding those things, and that it's not just in these silos or these isolated entities, that there's so much more connected to it, and being open to that and reaching out. I think holistic care or holistic health has a lot to do with networking. Because if I am a yoga teacher or a doula and I see someone suffering mentally, then I know, okay, you need a referral to someone who can help you with the mental part. Or if you're suffering from something, you may need a doctor to help you with that. So being open to look at the body as a complete and whole being.
Yeah, everything that all of y'all said, and I just think too, I think of like a diet, and when we think of diet, like not food, not only food, but like what are you taking in through your eyes and your ears and all of that stuff too. It's so important, really monitoring that and being mindful of that, because it really, I mean, spiritually, and I tell this to my kids, you know, my teenagers, it's like, what are you watching and what are you listening to? Being mindful of that, because it really can physically impact you, mentally, spiritually, all of that. So definitely.
Yeah, and a lot of what our generation has been learning is social media can have a really strong, impactful role in that. And you know, some of the things that we talk about on FI is to be more aware and the type of things that you're like accepting, so that you can, you know, practice, you know, more positive mental health. So when it comes to concerns or stigmas, what do you think? What kinds of those do you think impact holistic health?
I can jump in here. Well, from what I can see, some of the stigmas are, that people who do this are like these quacks. We don't really practice real medicine. There's no scientific proof of it. Also, that it's also it's termed as an alternative medicine, and to me, that's problematic for me, because to me, as I think Mrs. Booth referenced, these traditional practices have been around for thousands of years. And, so at one point someone would have stopped using it if it didn't work. And so these are stigmas that we fight. And so, like, even for myself, I mean, I don't, I refuse to be called an alternative. I am what I call traditional, and I call Western medicine, a conventional medicine. And I, so these are the concerns that we're dealing with. And when you tell somebody that this is an alternative, then that's suggesting them that this is something that you do at the last resort. And the problem with that is that if we can get people to understand the preventative nature of holistic medicine from the beginning, they would not end up in the dire straits that they're in, and then have to go to a Western doctor and they tell them they can't do anything, and then they come to us and say, "Hey, heal me," and then everybody will say, "Hey, that stuff don't work." If they had come to us in the first place, they wouldn't have got where they were. I'm a Baptist preacher, y'all, so I'm not gonna hog all the time. So I'm gonna let somebody else talk now.
I would like to jump in and say one of our problems in our community, our indigenous Mexican community, is the stigma that the church and society has placed on our traditions and our ceremonies. And they've been referred to as superstitious, that they don't work, that it's crazy to be looking back at these old traditions, because they don't work. And that's only because they don't know that they haven't had the experience, they haven't had the exposure. And that's why I feel so strongly about practicing our traditions in our longhouse, giving that safe space to practice what and to learn what our ancestors have left us. And I call them treasures that they have left us, because they are so important in indigenous communities. And I wish that our Mexican and indigenous community here in Flint and other places too were more receptive to coming and finding out what we're doing and to experience it for themselves. It addresses so many things: mental, emotional, physical healing. It's a safe place. This sweat lodge that I'm talking about is a safe place to get answers and guidance from both community and spiritual guidance also. And it's a place to release anger, guilt, shame in a very safe way. And it's for us, it's a very sacred place. So it's a very safe place to pray, to meditate, to learn, and also to to create that network of people that are using these methods for their healing. And anyway, I'm so grateful that you have this panel because it gives me a chance and opportunity to discuss some of these things that we are doing and providing for our community.
I really appreciate Dr. Thompson and Celia's perspective because I put in the chat too, I love the fact that you said that it's not alternative. It should be the go-to, right? And I think that has accessibility, right? So sometimes when you don't have access to certain things, or it's not promoted in a certain way, people don't know about it. A lot of times when I first started doing yoga, I was told that I didn't believe in God anymore. I was told that it was a sacred practice by monks and I shouldn't be doing it. I was told a lot of things because people are miseducated or not educated in these things. So I think education and accessibility are important. And then understanding, we always talk about the benefits of things, but sometimes I think people need to understand the negative impacts as well. Like, especially as a birth doula, people like, oh, I have a support person, or I have family, or I have a doctor, I don't need a doula. But then I tell them the story of Serena Williams and like what she went through birthing her daughter. She's famous. She has money, and she still, as a Black woman, suffered in that hospital because no one listened to her, right? So having, I think that is another thing I brought up, like in holistic care, is about support system. It's not just this one thing, and being able to have access to that, and also being educated on the importance and the negatives of it can help as well.
So true.
So I'm going to transition us, and thank you so much for everyone who contributed to that opening question. I'm going to transition us into the kind of mindfulness and mental health question by asking, what is mindfulness? What is meditation? What is yoga? And how is this important to health, to public health? And anyone can start. I'm looking at you, Kanisha.
I'm looking like that because Kanisha know I'm looking at her.
That's your whole space.
That was your cue to jump in, Kanisha.
Absolutely. No, I was waiting. I was like, well, we'll see. Mindfulness is that, a simple definition is just the awareness that comes from being in the present moment. And I say this anytime I'm doing meditation, anytime I'm facilitating meditation, yoga, or mindfulness, is like, check in with your mind right now, because we all are physically present here. We are physically present looking at each other on Zoom, and our mind could be here or there, And so with that, I know even for me personally, I could literally have something in my mind and notice the physical reactions my body is going through. And it's not happening, but my heart beating fast, and I'm like, I might even get mad and it's not there. And so why put your body through that? Why release those hormones that's not even good for you when you can be present? And so it's really checking in, because when we're not doing that and we're just, if I'm constantly not checking in with myself, and which I started doing and realizing, like, man, my thoughts are all over the place. They're negative. And I could just be feeling like that all day, and at the end of the day feel depleted and not know why, but it was because my mind is just running, And so the mindfulness is just being present. And then it's the awareness. And then what do you do with that awareness? For me personally, I think mindfulness and meditation are separate. I think they can enhance each other, but they are two separate things. And some people, even with my people who I work with, we all have different definitions personally of what we think mindfulness and meditation is. Meditation is, to me, a separate experience of setting time aside to focus on your body, try to be present, breathing, calming yourself down. And then yoga is that spiritual practice, really connecting the body and with our breath and our movement, which our breath is so powerful, and we could take it anywhere with us, I say when I'm teaching yoga and we're in a difficult pose, and I'm like, hold this pose, y'all. Like, hold the pose, but focus on your breath, right? Because it's really what we do, like Toy said earlier, the asanas. That's cool. That's cute. Okay, you got that asana, but what you doing off the mat? What are you doing when, you're in that difficult conversation? What you doing before you send that text message? That's the real practice. And that's, it comes over time. Of course, you got to, it's a practice. It's a way of being. It's a lifestyle. What was the question? It was the mindfulness, meditation, and yoga.
And how does this relate to health?
How does it relate to health? Because it's all one: spiritual, mental, physical. It's all one. And like I said, when I was going to school, when I was going through, the classes for public health and stuff, mindfulness and meditation was never in there. We focused on like the food deserts, which all of that stuff, of course, is important, or what's causing a certain population to have this disease and all of that stuff. But really, I'm like, wow, the more I'm into it, I'm like, that's a big part of it. Mindfulness, meditation, and then racism. That's a big part of it too. Well, all of us, we all people of color here, we all indigenous, whatever. That's a big part of this system that we're operating in. If you are a person of color in this country or anywhere, we're operating in this system that's just constantly just on us. So that's a big part of it, is being able to know when you're stressed, being able to have those outlets. And know that it's physically impacting our bodies. Like, it's physically, when we're releasing those hormones, I call them like not feel good hormones, but the adrenaline, cortisol, that comes from stress, that comes from what's around us. And so monitoring that and know how to have those stress relieving techniques is really important.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kanisha. Thank you.
So to piggyback on, I like how you asked the question too, Jasmine, the mindfulness, meditation, and yoga, because they work together, but they are not all the same thing. I feel like, and this is just my personal opinion, the word mindfulness came around because people that didn't like the word meditation and yoga. So they started calling it a mindfulness practice, which really just means checking in with your mind, right? So meditation is allowing time to focus on a moment, where mindfulness is something you can do constantly, right? But meditation, just like yoga, is like you're doing something in that particular moment. Being mindful could just be intentional about being present. And then one thing that I try to make sure people understand in every yoga class is that meditation, mindfulness, all of these things do not turn off the thoughts in your brain. That's not how our minds were created. They weren't made to turn off, right? But they were made for us to be present. And being present is just not worrying about what happened before this moment, not worrying about what happens, just staying in this moment. So if I'm in my car driving, I don't go on autopilot because I'm focused about a meeting that's taking place in 3 hours. I'm focused on, a specific task. And I give this example because I tell people this all the time. They ask me, how do you stay mindful? How do you stay present? And I always use the car analogy because that is a place where most people seem to want to like drift off, right? And so if I'm in my car and I'm driving to pick up the kids from school, I focus on driving to picking up the kids from school. I'm not thinking about preparing dinner. I'm not thinking about the cell phone call or the meeting that I have this afternoon or what I'm going to wear to work or the laundry that I need to do. I'm just going to focus on driving safely to pick my kids up from school. And it's little things like that that we have to bring awareness to and help people understand how it impacts their health. Because if your mind is always going to different places, I mean, that impacts not only your health, but your life, right? And I think somebody, and I don't remember which panelist it was that said it earlier, said something about like, the health is not just like our physical health, it's everything that we do. It's our lifestyle, it's the life we live. And if I'm always on the go and I'm never giving my mind a chance to just be here, then I'm always scattered. And then your body starts to be scattered. And then your actions start to be scattered. And then everything around you is scattered. So it's kind of like this big snowball effect. But if you bring the mind in, then all of the other things will start to follow.
I think I'd like to add into that, why are these things important to public health? I think, and there's a lot I can say about this, but to be succinct, if we can imagine a world in where people can take advantage of these things, and I'm not an epidemiologist, but I will guarantee you that you will see less incidences of the major illnesses that kill us year to year. If we can get people engaged in mindfulness and meditation and yoga, however that looks for you, we will see a reduction in rates of cardiovascular disease, heart attack, any sort of heart illness, even cancer rates. I guarantee you will go down if we would engage people in other aspects of their being and making sure those are healthy.
So, Jasmine, if I can
Yes.
what Dr. Thompson and what Toy said. First of all, there are several studies that have shown that mindfulness reduces stress, and also mindfulness. There were some studies in the DC, Baltimore area that looked at the impact of mindfulness on violence in certain neighborhoods. And so it is a very strong, powerful tool. And the piece to what Toy was saying, and I think I've said this on the show before, one of the discussions I had with on one of the interviews that I was doing about a year ago is where we get so caught up in doing things, because everything, we got to be about it. We got to be a boss, right? Bosses make moves, right? Bosses make, we get caught up in all of that. And it's all about doing, right? Making it happen, getting things done, moving and shaking. And I always go back to this, but we're not called human doers. We're called human beings. And sometimes instead of doing, we need to be. Concentrate on just be and just being in that moment. And so oftentimes I tell people, it's okay to do, but don't lose the sight of just being, right? And so that kind of goes into the whole mindfulness piece of just being in that moment, breathing in that moment, feeling that moment, nothing but that moment. And if you have more being moments, you probably would be more effective in your doing. So that's just what I wanted to throw out there.
I love that. We're human beings, not human doings. So I'm going to read a couple of messages in the chat, and then we'll go to Dr. Bailey and Miss Celia, and then I'll transition it to Tomas. So in the chat, Cruz said there are a lot of stressors in this country, but a lot of denial of addressing it. It's important, Tomas said it's important to know how to focus and clear the stressors and distractions. Cruz said that's something I need to work on. I'm always thinking about the next thing I have to do. And Monisha said I need to work on that. I've always stressed, LOL. So just bringing in everyone who's contributing to the conversation. And then we'll have Dr. Bailey and then Celia.
Thank you, Jasmine. This conversation has been so rich. One of the things that I do try to impress upon people, especially as a Christian, as a pastor, as a church elder, is that there is nothing wrong with meditation. For the Word of God even declares that we need to meditate, which means think on these things day and night. And it will help you if you can think on them day and night. That will keep you calm, cool, and collect, because there are so many different stressors in this world. Our lives are full of stress all day long, as a parent, as a worker, as all the things that we have to do. So it's extremely important. And I put in the chat initially that when we start talking about holistic, we're talking about mind, body, and soul. Every part of me has to be in alignment. And when I meditate, I become in alignment with those who are around me, the universe, every part of, because I'm part energy. In addition to being a soul, in addition to being a physical being, there's energy that flows through me that has to have a place to be released. And if it doesn't release, then that's how come it's in my hip. And that's where it stops, because it gets blocked there. And now I got pain, so, and I got to get somebody to get the pain out. So it's all interconnected. And when we begin to realize how interconnected we are to one another, and that's what creates the wholeness for us. That's what creates the wonderful energy around us. I try to stay, which is why I said I try to stay around young people who give me life, who's not talking about what's going to happen when they die, but who's telling me how they're living, because that's what I want to do. I want to live.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me share that.
Dr. Bailey, did you want to add, Talia?
Yes, Celia.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh no, you can go.
Well, I just wanted to add that that meditation and um, it strengthens our endurance and it teaches us discipline, and that's part of what we need to handle our stress. And I just got home from Sundance ceremony where we pray in a sacred circle for 4 days, from sun up to sundown, and we have to stay in one spot and move our feet. It's symbolic to confront our death and also to rebirth ourselves. And in that constant movement that we're doing, it teaches us how to be disciplined and how to endure. And when we're finished with our ceremony of 4 days, we feel stronger, we feel healthier, we feel that we can handle any problems that we have. And so that's one of the reasons that I am so dedicated to teaching our community about our ceremonies, because there's strength there, there's discipline there, and these are some of the things that we need to handle stress and to know that we can overcome any stressful situation that we encounter. And so anyway, that's what I wanted to say.
And that's really powerful, that knowing that you can handle the stressors that come. Thank you so much. Tomas?
Thank you.
Yeah, this is a very enriching conversation, and I feel like I agree with everyone saying their different contributions. And Dr. Thompson, I really understand and I feel what you're saying about making sure that we spread awareness, because a lot of illnesses that are major in the U.S. and probably everywhere globally can be cured with these other practices. Oftentimes people, like you were saying earlier, think that, it's the right way to take regular westernized like medicine and stuff like that, but you see all those health effects and stuff like that on the Tylenol, on the single painkiller. So that'll just be the proof. But I feel like it's important having these conversations, and even prevention is key, Jasmine, and mentioning as well to the youth how important it is to do this so we can tackle those suicide rates and help with bullying. That's why it's important we put these things in our education system. So once again, I feel like voting can help. I know we've always discussed that, making sure that we vote for the right people who will help implement these policies that have these subjects in mind. So I guess since we're speaking of different concerns, one of my questions would be, what do I do if these methods do not work for me or are not accessible? How can these practices that you all are mentioning work for me?
I think is no one way to meditate or do mindfulness. And so when we think of accessibility, you could take your breath anywhere. So then let's say focusing on your breath is like, that makes me anxious. I can't focus on my breath. And so we have, it's different anchors, whatever you use to be present. So it could be a physical sensation. It could be smell, aromatherapy. I've been in meetings where we take out, whatever essential oils you have, you could rub it, you could smell it. I mean, whatever that looks like, you can, so many different ways. And I think when we think of meditation, when we think of mindfulness, when we think of this holistic health, we have one thing in mind, or very few, limited, what it is that we can do. And it's not limited at all. We could bring it to every aspect of our life. And it's unique to you. I always say that even in yoga classes, in different asanas, I'm like, your body is still your body, and your posture not gonna look like mine or the person next to you. It's gonna be unique to you, because we all got different bodies. And it's the same way with mindfulness and meditation. we always start off when I do something, especially when I'm doing it with younger people, I do something loud and I do something where we get up and move, because a lot of people, the first thing they think of when they do meditation is mindfulness. They go like this, like, and I'm like, but it's so much more. You could be loud and still be mindful. You can, it's so much that you can do. So I think as far as accessibility or what to do if it's not for me, I say explore it and make your practice your own. It's unique to you. It's so many things, like I said, smell, really your five senses. So if breath don't work, okay, what about smell? If smell don't work, okay, what about visual? What can you do visually to help you get there? And really just, I think, of course, representation is key. I think a lot of us, specifically Black people or people of color, sometimes, especially how westernized this practice has become, you be thinking like, that's a white person thing. I've heard that. Like, I've heard people say that. And I'm like, no, it's not. And it's original and it's unique to us. It's from our ancestors. This is our thing. You know what I mean? Like, this is us. It's in our DNA. If you really can just tap into that, really assess it. It's already naturally within us.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just saying, I want to hear what you got.
That was a great question too, because you think about all of the things that we talked about today, and they're great. And we heard Dr. Keys and Dr. Thompson and Dr. Bailey talk about these benefits and these different things, but how do we get them to people? How do we get them out there? And I think that's all about what public health is, right? Making prevention of disease and promoting health and getting these things that will stop us from going through these health snowballs going downward, right? So the wonderful thing about 2022 is that the technology is just everywhere. Technology is everywhere. And I tell people, selecting a mindfulness practice, whether it's yoga, whether it's Tai Chi, whether it's meditation, it's just like you would select what you're going to eat for dinner or what you're going to do. They're just like there's all these different churches and different religious organizations that we choose from. How do we know which one works for us until we try it? So don't be afraid. The other thing I would tell you is live a lifestyle of unattachment. And what I mean is sometimes we get so caught up or attached to things and outcomes that we don't allow ourselves to explore. We put ourselves in these little boxes that we don't go out there and do. If you want to try yoga, get on YouTube and say, whatever type of yoga. For example, I have a lot of people that I teach trap yoga. So they might be more applicable, they might be more comfortable coming to that type of yoga than going to a class where they're playing spa music and, they don't see anybody that looks like them. So I think the technology has done wonders for us. Like 20 years ago, that might not have been the case. It really wasn't accessible. But I think now we have this wonderful internet that can give us, and then creating these groups like this where you have these panelists and these networks. I mean, I think we have like 4 yoga teachers on here and we all teach different, and it doesn't knock any one style, but everybody has something different. And I love how Khadijah said, just explore. You have to go out there and try do things. And, even with mental health, there's, talk therapy, there's art therapy. There's so many things out there that can help us help ourselves. We just have to be unattached to an outcome and unattached to what we may perceive as what's going to happen.
I also like to add, just a couple things. First of all, I want to try this trap yoga. I want to try this. It sounds very intriguing to me. But I think I want to remind everybody, hey, listen, you don't necessarily have to do this by yourself. In the exploration, you can seek out folks like you see here on here and say, hey, help me to figure this out. People who do this for a living, people who have been trained to do this, we can seek them out. And listen, if you don't have access to somebody like this, there's all sorts of apps on the phone that can help to guide you in meditation, into mindfulness, things you can, on my phone, on my watch every day, it is a reminder. It's an app on here called mindfulness or something. It tells me, look, take a moment here and just breathe and just, meditate on something, just be where you are. So there's all sorts of things that we can do to get some guidance as well as get through some things on our own. And the reality is, to answer that question, and part of that question is, what do I do if they don't work? I truly believe that if you explore the way that you could, you will find something or some combination of things that do work for you, for the specifics of who you are and what you need.
What I like about this, Jasmine, is that it's so individualized. It is you. It's all about you. You don't have to worry if someone else is doing it, and you don't have to worry if you're doing it like somebody else. You can just be you. And that takes a lot of pressure off a lot of people when they can just be themselves, be who you are, and not worry about other folks. Because other people will lead you down a path that they won't even take.
And speaking of that individualized kind of way of doing things, when it comes to yoga, like there are plenty of modifications that can be taken depending on your, your body size, what your level of flexibility is. So if, a downward dog is not, in your ministry, you can lower those knees and, kind of take some of that pressure off. And there are, plenty of different ways to sit. So I know people always say to me like, girl, I don't know about your yoga classes. Like, I can't do a headstand. I can't do all that. I'm not flexible. I'm not skinny. I'm like, listen, I'm not flexible. I'm not skinny either. Like, I'm 200 pounds, but we're going to do this yoga because it's not just, like Kanisha said, it's not just about the physical practice. Anyway, there's like, 8 limbs of yoga. You have your breath, which is super, super important. But there's always ways to make it work for you.
Just one of our kind of closing questions, because we're kind of wrapping up soon here. Jasmine, you let me know, but I guess our next question would be kind of related to nutrition. So I'm sure that nutrition impacts our holistic health. So I guess I want to know, how does it do that, and what should we be eating in order to stay holistically and mentally healthy? So
I'd like to jump into there. Listen, everybody here who has a car, I dare you to put some milk in the gas tank and try to pull off somewhere. I guarantee you, you're not gonna get no kind of, it's not gonna crank, period, at all. And again, I gotta say that, it's the same thing, it's kind of a trite saying, you are what you eat. And if you put junk in your body, it's not gonna work physiologically. It will not have the tools to work the way that it needs to work. And so, with that being said, as a naturopathic physician, I gotta, say I'm a fan of doing plant-based diets. I'm not saying you can't eat no meat. I know some people get offended by saying, I gotta have some meat. So, but I'm gonna say, look, I'm an advocate of predominantly plant-based diet, 20-80% if you're gonna eat some meat, lean meats, 20%, 80% plant-based diet. I promise you, it'll clean your body up, and also being aware of where you get your food from and how it's grown. It's have so many foods and varieties of things in the world that have been put here by our Creator, and if we could tap into those things, fruits, vegetables, some lean meats, whole grains. And be very mindful. So we use that word a lot, being mindful about what we're putting in there. These will have astronomical effects on our health, astronomical effects. And just being very mindful of where you're getting it from and what's being put in there. I'll just listen while I go there.
Yeah, I think, being mindful, and it's a mindset shift. I think just culturally, we're used to the fast, the process, all of that stuff. Even like I have 18-month-old twins, and my husband and I decided we're going to raise them vegan. We're not vegan, but they're vegan. And I know there's a lot of people in our families like, when y'all go get them real food? That's what they always tell us. And it's like, but they are eating real food. But you got to think about, we're used to like, oh, when we say real food, it's like the processed stuff. It's the not real food. So really shifting the mindset to that plant-based, like this is what is healthy for me. And like I said, even us, as we decided to raise the twins vegan and trying to change even what we eat, it's a slow process, right? Because you got to think about how you've been raised or how, you've been eating, but really just making those changes one step at a time, or looking at your plate like, okay, well, I'm gonna replace this with a plant-based food, with a vegetable, with a fruit, or whatever that looks like. Because it's impact, what you eat can impact your mental health. So it's all connected, spiritually, everything. And so even I did mindful eating. So that's a part of it too. It's a thing. Mindful eating is a thing, right? So you think about where your food came from. And then a part of gratitude too, that thankfulness that comes, and that changes our spirit as well, that gratitude. But I did it with kids, and these kids eating hot Cheetos, Takis, and so we did it with hot Cheetos, and they was like, these not even good, once they ate it slowly and they really thought about it. So it was just funny. And then we thought about like, okay, where do hot Cheetos come from? Like, is it even real versus what that is? So it's just funny to get our minds thinking of the food that we're putting in our body every day, and really it ain't even good, but you just kind of just eating it. Don't nobody eat hot Cheetos slow. You eat it fast, don't even think about it. And so doing that exercise really is like, okay, yeah, let me start thinking about where it comes from. What is it doing in my body? How is it impacting me? How do I feel afterwards? So definitely just being mindful of what you put in your body and really thinking about where it comes from and how it impacts you.
I like that, Kanisha, because
wait, I gotta eat. Oh wait, I was saying, oh man, some hot Cheetos sound good right now too. But no, I gotta eat. But I guess
no. But you know what? So this goes back to our conversation about mindfulness, right? And when you brought that up, and Dr. Thompson said about that balance, you don't have to do everything at once. Right. And I think we want everything done, boom, 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 boom. You might make a change and say, I'm not eating hot Cheetos anymore. I'm gonna make sweet potato fries at home instead. That's gonna be my one thing that I change. And I think that's what we have to get through with anything that we're switching. When we're changing habits, it's not an all or nothing kind of deal, right? It's not an all or nothing. We can do things in portions. And the whole 80-20 thing, I love that, because that's kind of like how I try to eat. And when I explain that to people, they're like, and you don't have to classify yourself. That's the other thing that I think people don't know. You don't have to say I'm a vegetarian, I'm a vegan, I'm a pescatarian. I just eat what my body needs. Going back to that mindfulness, when you start to become present in the moment, you start to understand what your body wants, what your body needs. You'll see that, okay, I'm craving something. What does this mean? Because I'm craving this. Am I really craving ice cream, or do I need something to drink? Or could getting some strawberries help with the sweets craving that I'm having? Things like that. I'm a big coffee drinker. I absolutely love coffee. It is my first love. And so my doctor told me, she said, the only way, this was probably like 6 or 7 years ago, she said, your sugar in your coffee is going to kill you. Mm-hmm. So I started drinking it black. So, but I noticed the difference immediately. It was rough. And that's the other thing. I'm gonna be honest. When we make any kind of changes, things are rough. Technology, again, I keep going back to that. There's so much out here that we can use and have access to, free things. I'm a TikToker. I get on there and they have right now, the big thing on TikTok is this hot girl summer diet, right? And the salad that they're making. Right? So everybody doing the hot girl summer salad and just stuff like that helps what you see. Again, what Kanisha was bringing back earlier, what you surround yourself with will make you change. If I'm looking at people that's eating hot Cheetos and Popeye's chicken salads or chicken sandwiches all day, I'm gonna want to eat those things, right? But if I'm around people that are eating salads, or I'm looking at recipes that are healthy eating, I know Dr. Bailey said about access to foods that are healthy at inexpensive costs. I found someone on TikTok. She does healthy vegetarian meals from the Dollar Tree. That's her whole TikTok, right? So we just have to be more intentional with what we're trying to do, because there's things out there. We always make money the excuse, and I trust me, I get it, but it can't be the thing that stops us.
Yeah.
And just to add, like at the individual level, like we can do as much as we can to make our healthy decisions, but it's also on our our elected officials, our policymakers, to make these healthy foods accessible. Make it easier for us to make the better choices. I just wanted to add that piece.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pass it over to Cruz.
Yeah. I mean, these are hard things to do. And I really appreciate that you guys are expressing that concept because, you know, when ice cream start talking to me, you know, usually I answer, but, you know, sometimes having that mindset of, you know, these types of things are going to help me and assist me and make me live a healthier lifestyle can help, you know, make some of those smaller changes. And then all of a sudden they start to build up and add up to bigger deals. Our next question
So
is going to
can I say
be,
this real quick, Cruz?
oh
I just
yeah,
gotta say this real quick. Look, I gotta say this. Youth, the younger folks on here, start now. Don't wait till you're a certain age to start doing this. Do it now.
Yeah.
I'm dropping the mic. Go ahead. That's all I'll say that.
Hey, we gonna take the wise words. So our next question is, why are doulas important and what do you all do?
Toy, I do.
Yeah.
Speak doula. Speak doula.
Okay, so a doula is a trained professional who helps birthing families. That's like the basics of it. As a doula, my goal is to make sure that you have the birth experience that you want. Our BIPOC community, I could go on and on about maternal health, but most of you on this line, and if you don't know, Black women, people of color that are giving birth are dying just by trying to bring life into this earth. We are dying. And when you go back to why, it's because we are not heard. We're not listened to. We're not heard, right? So being a doula means that I am going to advocate. I'm going to provide emotional support, informational support, physical support to make sure your birth experience produces a healthy baby and a healthy, pleasurable experience. Some of the things I do as a doula, I help with high-level breastfeeding information, childbirth education, letting the parents know what to expect, especially with first-time parents. They have never birthed before, so they don't know what to do. So I try to make sure that all of those questions are answered. We get anybody, whether you're giving birth or just going to the doctor, we get a little timid sometimes and we don't want to ask certain questions. So having a doula will help you with that, because then you'll get back to them and say, I'll ask you, how's your doctor's appointment? You'll say, well, I was wondering about this. So that's where a doula comes in and help you get that information, providing community resources. That's back to that holistic health care. So if I know that they're suffering spiritually, get them with their, you know, whatever their religious practice is, connecting them with someone. Or if they're suffering mentally, or if they have questions about medication and things like that, or they don't have resources or access to things that they need for the baby, we provide those types of resources. I like to tell people that birth should be, it's hard, birth and labor is hard, but it should be a pleasurable experience. Like you, at the end of the day, when that baby comes, you should be able to smile and share your story, but not cry and weep about your story. So that's the goal of being a doula.
Toy, how would it help, or doula Toy, how would it help fathers as well during the process having a, that was one of our questions.
Yes, awesome. So doulas not only support the person that's giving birth, they support the entire family, that whole thing. So we are there to answer questions for dads, for grandparents, whoever is participating in this. If you go back to our ancestors and how we gave birth, it was not just that one person giving birth. It was a village of people making sure that this baby arrived here safe and healthy for both them and for mom, right? So that's what a doula is, bringing back that type of village support system. We can give you tips on how to help during the birth process, how to coach, what to do once baby's here, all those things. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, I really appreciate that because, you know, in the Black community specifically, one of the resources that we're actively deprived of is that information, that knowledge, those concepts of things that, you know, aren't passed along. Yeah. And then, you know, it's essential for us to, you know, help our own in a lot of cases. So I really appreciate personally that when it comes to, you know, Black women, you're attempting to help bridge that gap of how it's being discriminated against.
Yeah, and if you think about, I think it was Thomas who talked about helping the fathers too. Having support in any type of health environment increases the outcome, right? Whether it's giving birth or doing exercising together or changing my diet, when you have a support system, you can make better positive changes. And that's, as a doula, that's what we want to strive towards, and helping make a positive change for a birth experience.
So I just like to say that, so myself and Dr. Bailey, I'm a co-investigator for a maternal health project, and we have done infant mortality projects in the past where we saw that babies of color, specifically African-American babies, were dying in Genesee County. I think it was 3 to 1 for every one white baby that died before reaching.
Yes, that is the statistic.
It was 3. And we did some interventions that actually reduced it over time when we were funded by CDC. For almost a decade, we had the disparity almost where it needed to be. But as soon as the funding went away, the disparity went back to where it was, which tells us it's systemic more so than anything. When we think about the systemic nature of racism and all the other isms and many of the, what's the word? Prejudice and experiences that people deal with in the healthcare system. But I mentioned all of that because when we talked about in our maternal health project, we talk about the roles of doulas. We talk about the need to increase doulas in communities of color, and to go back to the roots of that, and to show not only the social support, but the cultural support. That's kind of what Toy was talking about when she talked about it's the village concept. And so just thank you for highlighting that, Toya, and we probably will link you to this study in some kind of way. So
the other thing that, and misconception is that like doulas are for like rich people or people that have money, kind of like the whole thing with nannies and things. And so the question I always get asked is, how can I afford a doula? And so doulas are accessible. I'll say that. In the state of Michigan, there are many community organizations that offer doula services free of charge. The pandemic also opened up grants and opportunities. So we have a few private practice doulas, especially in Flint and Genesee County, that are offering free doula services. So if you're expecting, I will tell you, search, again, technology, search for free doula services. My company, Colorful Heart Doulas, we're offering, especially for first-time expecting moms, a lot of those are either free or at a discounted rate, just depending on the due date. So it really depends. But there are places out there. Unfortunately, Michigan is not one of the places where they're allowing us to bill the insurance. So again, we go back to policies and procedures and getting people involved that can change that. We have a few other states that are now, the doulas are able to just charge your insurance. But I tell moms, think about if you have a health spending account or a flex spending account, you can use that to pay for doula services. If you have a baby registry, put doula services on your baby registry. I'm telling people that are expecting that if you don't have a birth doula, you want a postpartum doula. A postpartum doula for a first mom is like an angel sitting next to you, helping you, guide you through this process that it's unseen territory, right? So having that, but yeah, those are like creative ways. Don't have a baby shower. Say, instead of you guys spending all this money on a baby shower, get me a doula. So just be creative and open with it, because it is accessible.
I just want to add to that by saying, because Toy mentioned like this issue of having doulas be able to bill for insurance could really help reduce these disparities. And when we're talking about these disparities, Dr. Key alluded to, death rates in infants between Black and white, children or newborns. But when you look at the death rates for infants born to Black Americans with advanced degrees are still higher than white Americans who didn't go to high school. So this doesn't even matter when you're thinking about, SES and all that. It's literally a racial issue, and Black women are 3 to 4 3 to 4 times more likely to die from complications around pregnancy and childbirth than white women. So when we talk about, this being a health disparity, this is stark, and policy needs to be implemented to kind of improve on this. I saw someone's hand up, and we'll take one more response before we go into the spirituality question and then kind of close out.
It was mine, but you said
it. These disparities are real. So the next question is, how does spirituality play a role, or what role does it play in holistic health, in public health? All right, we see you, Kayla. Have a good one. But what role does spirituality play in public health and in holistic health?
Well, I'd like to clarify something that we've been miseducated in. You've always heard that the indigenous people of Mexico, especially the Nahuatl Aztec Indians, had many gods. And I want to clarify for you all, because we've been miseducated in that area. We did not have many gods. We have one God, and that's the same God that everyone else prays to. What the Spaniards contributed to or named as gods were not gods at all. They were symbols for spiritual. They were spiritual symbols. Like, for instance, Quetzalcoatl, that is the plumed serpent that undulates throughout the universe, bringing spirituality to all human beings. Now, that is not a god, it's a symbol. And so I just wanted to clarify that. When we pray, there is only one God that we pray to. And that is, I think, the only God that everyone prays to. And so I just wanted to clarify that, that as indigenous people, there is only one God. And that's who we pray to.
Thank you.
Yes. I think.
Also, I saw Dr. Bailey's hand really quick.
Go ahead.
Then we'll go to Dr. Thompson. Oh,
he's our guest.
Oh, sorry. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
All right, I appreciate that. One thing I would say is, Mrs. Booth's talking about kind of ancient cultures and things of that nature. I mean, I think one thing we have to understand is that in most ancient cultures, if you ask them what is the word for faith and what is the word for health, there is no difference. They're going to tell you the same word. So we have to understand that these things are not inherently disconnected, but they're inextricably linked. But we have to understand that we have in this country, particularly in the Western culture, have been schooled in what I like to call a Descartesian philosophy of separatism, where we're taught that everything is separate. And that's why we live the way we live, and we running and doing and going and doing, nothing is connected. But we got to understand that they had it right, they had it right back in the air. It's all connected, and I can tell you from a Christian perspective, and I think that others may corroborate this from other spiritual perspectives. I teach my church that when God called us to be holy, he wasn't just talking about your spirit. Wasn't just talking about your spirit, talking about the entirety of who you are, right? To be whole in that sense. And so I think spirituality has to play a larger role in our health system, in the public health system, in the health system in general, because it addresses a reason why people are sick. And one of the reasons why people are sick is because they don't want to deal with the spiritual. And because in some sense they feel disconnected from it, because that's what they've been taught. Right? This is something separate from what makes me successful. But if you understand that all those things are connected, and that if you're not addressing that part of yourself, then you cannot really tell me in truth that you are well. You may be healthy in some other areas, but you're not well because that spiritual aspect of yourself is not in order. Now, so again, if we can get that area, people understand that and to address those areas of themselves, again, from a public health perspective, we're gonna see a lot of disease go down. We're gonna see stress go down, cardiovascular disease go down, etc.
We have a saying. We say all our relation when we end a prayer, and that is that means that we are connected to everything that the Creator has given us. That we need to realize, the life that a plant has, the life that a tree has, the purpose of these plants, even the rocks. We call them our grandmothers, because in our ceremonies, we heat them, especially for our sweat lodge ceremony. We heat that grandmother rock in that sacred fire. That sacred fire represents that Creator's love here on earth for us. And that stone is taken into the sweat lodge and is released. The love and the healing is released, and the medicine is released by pouring a sacred water onto it that releases that steam that heals us, that cleanses us, that purifies us. And so we say all our relation, reminding us of our connection to all that exists, that all that the Creator has given us to exist on this planet. And so anyway, I just wanted to share that and add that to the conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we're all saying pretty much the same thing. The real issue is the misinformation that has been given in this country to people in regards to everything. Most things you have to really go in and you have to search it out for yourself, to know for yourself. And when you begin to study in comparative religions, what you really find is that the common thread is spirituality. And spirituality has nothing to do with religious practice. And that's where we fall short oftentimes. And then it creates all these different schisms and isms that separates us rather than bring us together, which is what religion was initially brought to man to do, was to bring him into alignment with others rather than disaligning, but for purposes that are economical and racist. Folks have given us misinformation, and because we didn't know better, we took it on. But the Bible tells me that when you know better, you do better. And this is about knowing better. And that's what this program is all about, is helping us to know better so that we can do better and be better. Because we are human beings. And I also like our mantra here is that public health is everything, and everything is public health. And until we begin to realize that, we're going to keep trying to work in silos, and it's never going to really bring us to the outcomes that we truly desire. We have to start being interconnected.
Amen. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I think it's great that I like how Ms. Celia is explaining with the Indigenous people, because it shows you how we talked about in the beginning, those interconnections, and how the spiritual side is connected with everything. When you talk about, I think Anisha brought this up earlier, when you talk about like mindfulness and going to a yoga class or exercise class, or even going to a mental health therapist, you like to see people who look like you, right? So when I'm trying to get healthy, I want people who respect the same things I respect, the same values, the same morals, the same ethics, the same spirituality. So if you have those same concepts, those same things, then we're going to connect, and I'm going to be more likely to listen and follow through. Right? But if we have different beliefs, we have different morals, then I might not want to follow through. Seeing a doctor like Dr. Thompson, and I know that his tradition is to, be holistic, to follow the natural cures, and if that's where my background is and that's my ancestors, I'm going to be more likely to adhere to what he says. And then from there, what happens? My health improves. And so that's how spirituality is important to the public health, because we have to feed the whole person and not just the one isolated thing.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to agree. I think it's so important. Spirituality it's all interconnected, but I think that spirituality is the root. And so when I know someone who had uncontrollable hypertension, right? Like, oh, they keep changing my medications, my blood pressure just won't go down. And it's like, you need to change your doctor, because your doctor is only focusing on that and change your medication. But what's wrong with your spirit? That's the thing. That's what we got to look at. Why is your blood pressure up there? And okay, I changed my diet, I changed this. What you changing your spirit? Because that's really where the root cause is. And so to me, it's like spirituality is just that epicenter, right? And so when we have all of these different diseases and all of this stuff going on that we can't control, that we're trying to take medication for, we're doing all this stuff, but we're not addressing anything spiritually, it's not going to go down. It's not going to change. And so I think naturopathic doctors, they're so important. And I know I was seeing one, even I got a letter from my insurance. She's no longer covered, right? Like they're no longer going to pay for her services. And I don't know why, but I know somebody said that's because they're healing people, right? They're healing people. and that's why. And I'm like, I guess that makes sense, So, yeah.
Thank you for that, Miss Kanisha. Thank you, everybody, giving us that daily dose of knowledge. I can't wait. I'm excited to apply these different things, because as we said, there's no right, no correct one way. It's based off forgot who said it earlier, what you want to do. So really, I know we already kind of discussed it during this whole conversation, but just briefly, if everyone could please tell me for our closing question, what daily habits can I incorporate to achieve holistic public health? So if you could list a couple, like straight up steps, so that way I can achieve it.
Sleep better.
Ooh, sleep, that's good. I think the awareness, and once you got that awareness, you can see, you'll start to realize and notice the mindfulness.
Yeah, I think I would, two things. I mean, I would say begin to change the lifestyle of your diet. Even if it means making small increments every day, seeking the knowledge to make that making better decisions nutritionally. And secondly, I like how it was said that, spirituality is a root here. And I think, engaging in whatever spiritual practices that are working for you, begin to explore what that means. Even if it means, seeking somebody who you trust spiritually to help guide you in that sense, but begin to engage yourself in that spiritual practice to connect yourself in the way you need to be connected holistically.
One of the things that I would suggest is the first thing that you do in the morning as you open your eyes is thank God for another day of life, for another opportunity to change whatever you need to change in your life that day. To me, that is very important, because I think that sets you off on a good path, and it reminds you that you have an opportunity to change whatever needs to be changed. And there you are. God has given you another chance.
That's I was going to follow up, because I was going to say show gratitude. Show gratitude, show gratitude. Whatever you show follows you. The other part is to take a moment to just be in the morning. We don't slow down as a society. We're always rushing. Just be. That means instead of jumping straight out of bed, I'm going to set my alarm 5 minutes earlier. I'm going to sit on the end of the bed. I'm going to show gratitude. I'm going to look around the room. I'm going to observe and be aware, because that's where that mindfulness and just knowing. How do you know what to change in your life if you're not even slowing down to become aware of it? So just taking a few moments in the morning to show gratitude and be aware. And then when you go to bed, do the same thing. It'll help you sleep better too.
Yes.
Okay, anybody else? All right.
I'd like
Oh,
to just say one thing. In everything that was said in terms of these daily habits, I gotta say, you must be intentional about it. It's not gonna happen if you just say, "Hey, I want to do this." Just like everybody makes these, beginning of the year resolutions, and people say these things they want to do, but they don't make a plan to do it. It has to be intentional. You got to make the time. Set, like I said, set your, set that alarm clock differently, but be intentional and put it in the part of your day.
thank you, Doc. All right. Thank you, panelists, for that wisdom. And I'm looking forward to hopefully collaborating and hearing from you all in the future. But thank you for my co-hosts as well, Jasmine and Cruz. Thank you for my attendees. Thank you, Dr. Thompson, Dula Toy, Miss Kanisha, Thea Celia, and everybody out there watching. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for having us.
So again, we would like to thank our guests and thank everyone that joined us out there in social media land. We had an awesome show. Make sure that you go back and replay this show. Send it to some of your friends, people who may be stressed out or who are dealing with health issues and they can't seem to find a solution. I believe there's information that's embedded in this show that will help them. So again, we're here every other Friday for another episode of A Youth Perspective. We are the Flint Public Health Youth Academy, where public health is everything and everything is public health. You all have a wonderful evening. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.